Well, that's a great question. I mean, okay, so what I would say is that a lot of times, and this is true for literally everybody, maybe not even, maybe Ariel Helwani would be the exception, but honestly, even with him, this is going to be true to an extent. Part of what we do in the role, and you understand this too, is that, hey, what can I do to just survive? Like what are the jobs that are hiring and what do they want? So like they're partly that has been, to be honest, more than any other driver, I think in my career, that's just been perhaps the biggest one. What am I being hired to do? You can, and there can be situations where you can tackle that and you can play with that and you can have a little bit of freedom to define that. That is true as well, which I've done to an extent, but part of it is just surviving. I would say though that I'm at the stage of my career now where I'm thinking a lot more about these kinds of things. MK inherently, Morning Combat, the podcast I do with Brian Campbell, inherently has a great degree of silliness. That is by design, in part because silliness can be fun, and also because there's a lot of this sport that is inherently unserious, but unserious in a way that's like, I don't know, angry. Like,
It needs to be lampooned to a certain degree in order to realize, oh, actually, this is silly, isn't it? Like,
yeah. Well,
it can
I
take
mean,
itself too seriously sometimes until it
are
walks back and realizes it.
you're a British guy, so let me ask you a question. Are you a boxing fan? There's no wrong answer to this question. I'm just
Yeah, very
asking.
much so. Yeah.
Okay. So me too, dude. This is the weirdest thing, and I don't have a good answer for this. I have no clue why it's quite like this. I mean, I've got some theories, but none of them are any good. You go to a boxing event, and yeah, there's a couple people with axes to grind, and there's beefs in the crowd and shit like that. But like in general, dude, people are pretty happy to see one another. That is not the way MMA is. In MMA, dude, it's a constant West Side Story, the Jets versus the Sharks. Everyone's got some axe to grind with somebody else. Everyone's kind of pissed off. It's really weird. There's a weird self-seriousness. There's a weird kind of undertone that MK was, in theory, trying to solve for some of that. So the point I'm trying to make is that does make some of the work inherently unserious. But some of the other things I've been able to do, I've had a little bit more focus on. I think I would actually say the next stage of my career will probably be a lot more focus on these kinds of things. Again, it really is not, partly it's a business calculation. What are unexplored things that need to be talked about? What are some angles that we talk about them, and to what extent is this in any way lucrative? These are questions that you do have to ask yourself. On the other hand, again, it's a very easy opening. Everything is moving, not everything, but lots of things are moving to a direction where, you're seeing this new crop of media, for example, and people want to bash them. I'm not consumers of their content. It's not for me, but it is not in any way lost on me that they just don't. It sounds like I'm going to be killing them for it. I'm actually not. They don't seem to care too much about how the sausage is made. They don't seem to care too much about learning the ins and outs of the fight sport itself. They're just there to kind of chill and have a good time. And honestly, I sort of get that. I get that. Like, you got these old crusty guys like me who are like, fighter pay, and then people are like, I'm just here to watch fights. I get that, but I actually do believe that for as much as that might be a big trend in where everything is heading, there is going to be a portion of the audience. There's always going to be curious people. There's always going to be curious people. It really doesn't matter where you go. And I think I would like to, and have to some extent tried, but I would really like to focus my attention on servicing people who can do that. And to your point about like, what impact will that have? I do not know. I have no idea. I don't think of it at all in those terms. I think of it more in, is this something of value? Can I produce it, reasonably speaking? Just do it. And then whatever impact it has is the impact that it has.